Hello and welcome to St. Lucia Magazine, your weekly roundup of the nation's top stories in education, the economy, infrastructure, agriculture, and more. I am your host, Kendall Eugene. In this edition, St. Lucia is recognized internationally for advancements in debt management, and a review to improve delivery of development projects concludes. St. Lucia is being recognized internationally for its efforts to modernize public debt management. The Commonwealth Secretariat has highlighted the island as a model for other small island developing states.
The Debt and Investment Unit in the Department of Finance is gaining international recognition for modernizing its public debt management system, with the Commonwealth Secretariat highlighting the island as a success story for small island developing states across the Commonwealth. A team from the Commonwealth Secretariat were recently in St. Lucia to produce a feature documentary examining how the country has transformed the way it manages public debt through reforms led by the Debt and Investment Unit. Director of Finance Imran Williams said St. Lucia's long-standing partnership with the Commonwealth Secretariat has played a critical role in strengthening its debt management operations.
We've had a very fruitful and productive relationship with the Commonwealth Secretariat to date.
Williams noted that effective debt management is critical to maintaining investor confidence and ensuring the country can continue financing national development responsibly.
Data. Without data, you cannot make timely, correct, and holistic decisions. Management of the debt gives a signal that the government is being prudent, being fiscally responsible, and being careful as they try to balance the increasing debt with the development of the country and ensuring that you get the least cost possible debt to facilitate that development.
A major part of St. Lucia's reform efforts has been the adoption of the Commonwealth Meridian Debt Management System, a modern web-based platform that centralizes debt data and allows officials to access real-time information.
So the Meridian would allow you to always be able to understand what is the share of your debt, who are the holders of the debt of the government of St. Lucia.
Deputy Director of Finance with responsibility for debt and investment, Vera John Emmanuel, explained that Meridian became especially important during the COVID-19 pandemic, allowing officers to continue managing debt operations remotely while maintaining timely reporting requirements.
Meridian is the foundation of our unit in terms of providing timely and accurate data to our decision makers. We were introduced to Meridian in 2019, the first country in the Caribbean who was able to adopt that new system. It is web-based, and when I say timely, it came in a time when we had to be working from home for COVID. It really came to push the country further in terms of being transparent.
Senior Communications Officer with the Commonwealth Secretariat, Snooba Abassi, says the feature documentary will profile the Commonwealth's collaboration with member countries on debt management.
This documentary is part of our work to profile the work that we do with our member countries on debt management. So it would be shared on the Commonwealth social media platforms where we have about 500,000 followers. In addition to that, we have partnerships with broadcasters in our member countries within the Commonwealth. So we would offer it to the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation, and they would distribute it to different networks within the Caribbean regions. And we would also work with our public broadcasters partners in the Pacific.
The reforms undertaken by the Department of Finance have increased transparency, improved fiscal management, and positioned St. Lucia as a regional leader in modern debt management practices. For the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council, Glenn Simon reporting.
The government of St. Lucia, the World Bank, and the Caribbean Development Bank have concluded a joint review aimed at improving the delivery of major development projects. Once again, here is Glenn Simon.
The government of St. Lucia, the World Bank, and the Caribbean Development Bank have wrapped up a joint country portfolio review aimed at improving the implementation and delivery of major development projects across the island. The week-long exercise brought together project managers, government officials, and development partners to assess ongoing projects, identify implementation bottlenecks, and develop practical solutions to improve execution. World Bank Operations Manager for the Caribbean, Gail Richardson, says the mission focused on ensuring that projects financed by both institutions are producing tangible benefits for the people of St. Lucia.
And the goal is really to have a conversation with the implementing teams to say, how is it going? What can we at the World Bank be doing better? What obstacles are you facing? Because we really do want to expedite implementation of the project so that the people of St. Lucia can see the results.
Richardson noted that the review process also highlighted areas where progress has already been made since the first joint exercise held last year. One example she pointed to was the Regional Health Project, which included the rehabilitation of health facilities across St. Lucia.
It's a really nice facility. Once the equipment's brought back in, they'll be able to welcome in their clients. And I think that's the kind of tangible result we, the World Bank, the Caribbean Development Bank, and the government really want to see.
Director of Finance Imran Williams described the week as productive, noting that officials conducted a detailed review of several project portfolios to determine which projects were underperforming and why.
In some instances, we can see an improvement from last year's exercise, but that is not the case in every situation. So it forces us now to try to have some conversation with the modality by which we deliver those projects, to take an opportunity to do some stock taking, to look at it and see whether that's the ideal or the best place model for delivering those projects.
Williams says the collaboration reduces pressure on government agencies while allowing development partners to collectively address common implementation issues.
In a previous dispensation, you would have had an entire week for CDB, an entire week for World Bank. But now, because those creditors decide to have a joint country project portfolio review, it gives us the opportunity, especially when some of the issues are not unique to, say, a World Bank funded project vis-a-vis the CDB funded project. It gives you the opportunity to deal with the cross-cutting issues.
Director of Projects at the Caribbean Development Bank, O'Reilly Lewis, says St. Lucia's portfolio with the bank spans multiple sectors, including transportation, water, education, youth development, and community infrastructure.
Our portfolio is way over $200 million in St. Lucia. So there's a large implementation responsibility that the government has.
He says, despite some implementation challenges, the bank remains encouraged by the overall performance of projects in St. Lucia. Lewis also noted that the collaborative review model has proven beneficial for both the government and the development agencies.
There's a lot of learning happening in terms of us observing the World Bank portfolio and the World Bank looking at our portfolio. And we share the lessons, things that were working, things that are not working.
Officials say the joint review process will continue as St. Lucia works to improve project execution, efficiency, and ensure development investments translate to meaningful benefits for citizens. For the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council, Glenn Simon reporting.
Consultations are underway on a new initiative aimed at reducing crime and violence in St. Lucia. The project will focus on addressing the social and behavioral factors that place young people at risk. John Emmanuel tells us more.
Mere weeks after Equity Minister Honorable Emma Hippolyte announced government's innovative Catalyst project during her 2026-2027 budget presentation, national consultation on the major youth crime and violence reduction initiative have officially gotten underway. The Department of Equity, Social Justice, Gender and Older Persons on May 27, 2026 commenced a two-day stakeholder consultative process aimed at shaping the implementation of the Caribbean Development Bank CDB supported program, which forms part of the government's broader social intervention strategy to address crime, violence and vulnerability among young people. During her budget debate contribution, Minister Hippolyte described the US $2.5 million Catalyst project as a critical investment in prevention, empowerment, and social transformation, emphasizing that crime must be addressed not only through enforcement, but also through stronger social protection systems, family support, and youth development initiatives.
The Catalyst project is a comprehensive, non-criminal justice response to crime and violence, with a targeted focus on young men who exhibit behavioral challenges that may predispose them to delinquency. This project is a two-year project funded by the Caribbean Development Bank. It seeks to complement the traditional legal and criminal justice strategies by addressing underlying social and psychosocial drivers of youth involvement in crime.
The project is expected to focus on youth reintegration, psychosocial support services, family strengthening interventions, after-school and community programs, and targeted assistance for vulnerable and at-risk youth. Addressing stakeholders on day one of the consultation, Permanent Secretary in the Department of Equity, Dr. Charmaine Hippolyte-Emmanuel, said the activity was bringing together representatives from government agencies, educators, social workers, civil society organizations, youth workers, and community stakeholders to help guide the national implementation process and ensure that interventions are practical, coordinated, and responsive to community realities.
We wanted to take some speed. We wanted to leap into the bonds of places where persons are impacted, especially our young people. Too often we speak of our young people being tomorrow's future. In my view, I think our future is already done because of the number of young persons that we say goodbye to as a result of gun violence. So if we are going to continue speaking about young people or children being our future, today's conversation will actually give us a reason to actually say it with more confidence, knowing too that we are going to do things, positive things to stop all that violence.
Director of Social Transformation Tanzia Tuse noted that the initiative represents a people-centered approach to tackling some of the root causes of crime and antisocial behavior by strengthening families, expanding opportunities for young people, and building safer, more resilient communities.
The work here today is very instrumental because it is going to reflect the outcomes of which will be reflected in the implementation plan. We need to know what has to be procured. So our procurement plan has to be updated. The implementation plan has to be updated. The results framework has to be updated. And if it is that we're not seeing results for some of the project components, we also now have to decide whether we give the money or whether we stop the money or whether we say goodbye.
The consultation also formed part of the government's continued efforts to modernize and strengthen St. Lucia's social protection framework while creating more integrated systems for support for vulnerable individuals and families.
Still to come, St. Lucia and Martinique meet to discuss new trade arrangements. Stay with us.
We are 758. Creative, resourceful, resilient. We have been through it all. Pandemics, hurricanes, global and local crisis. Yet, we stand tall, a proud people. We support each other, embracing what is ours, what is truly St. Lucian. Support our local entrepreneurs, their products and services. Shop smart, shop local. Love St. Lucia.
Welcome back. St. Lucia is moving to strengthen economic ties with Martinique through a proposed trade initiative that could open new opportunities for business on both islands. Nival Auguste has the details.
Following a series of engagements with the visiting five-member French delegation, the government of St. Lucia, through the Department of Commerce, is systematically advancing plans to strengthen trade, investment, and cultural cooperation with Martinique. The cross-ministerial meetings drew senior administrative and technical officials from the Ministries of Agriculture and External Affairs, alongside key representatives from Export St. Lucia. Head of the French delegation and president of the Commission of Logistical Strategy of Martinique, Mrs. Sandra Casanova, spoke on the proposed 15-product trade initiative.
More than trade, it's a way to organize the value added, creating into Martinique and into St. Lucia. So I'm very pleased to be here. As you know, Martinique joined CARICOM, and it will be very official in July. And we believe 15 product project, it's a concrete project, a concrete way to demonstrate how Martinique and St. Lucia, very close neighbors, can work together and can develop more integration in the context of CARICOM and also in the context of EPA, EU CARI Forum, to facilitate trade between the two countries.
Officials agreed on the need to deepen collaboration and establish clearer mechanisms for implementation, monitoring, and long-term sustainability. Among the products identified for possible trade were yogurt, cheese, wine, olive oil, beauty and cosmetic products. Opportunities linked to CMOS research and value-added production were also explored. Reporting for the Government Information Service, I am Nival Auguste.
The Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce and Industry visited St. Lucia on a 3-day mission aimed at expanding business opportunities between the two CARICOM nations. Virgil Leonti reports.
A delegation of business leaders from the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce met in St. Lucia for a 3-day trade mission. The mission sought to facilitate increased trade and investment opportunities between the two CARICOM nations. Trinidadian manufacturing and distribution companies are seeking market opportunities here. Manager of Trade at the Trinidad Chamber of Commerce, Mark Sandy, believes there is an untapped local market for Trinidad goods and services.
St. Lucia has always been a very attractive market, not just from a trade mission perspective, but just generally for companies in Trinidad and Tobago that are looking to expand within the region. As all would be aware, St. Lucia is a very strong tourist market, and by virtue of that, the population of St. Lucia balloons exponentially when one takes into account the tourist population. And we believe that the strength of our different productive industries in Trinidad and Tobago, it comes to bear positively upon the demand, the very strong demand that's created by the indigenous St. Lucia population, as well as the tourist population.
Invest St. Lucia welcomed the mission, saying it's an ideal investment opportunity for local entrepreneurs.
There are always opportunities for these partnerships. You never know how long, well, not how long, but how far these relationships would go. So I always like to tell my colleagues the importance of networking. So look at it from the business side of things. Trinidad coming over to St. Lucia and then having the community in St. Lucia having an opportunity to engage those persons from Trinidad creates endless possibilities with regards to business.
Senior Research Officer at Invest St. Lucia, Mr. Dave Headley, anticipates that the mission will create mutually beneficial partnerships for both nations. From the Government Information Service, Virgil Leonti reporting.
Students of the TVET School of Sustainable Agriculture and Culinary Arts recently acknowledged Prime Minister Honorable Philip J. Pierre for his contributions. Melissa Paul has the story.
Students at the TVET School of Sustainable Agriculture and Culinary Arts presented Prime Minister Honorable Philip J. Pierre with fresh produce and agro-processed products grown and prepared by the students themselves. The gesture reflected Prime Minister Pierre's Eat What You Grow and Grow What You Eat philosophy, while highlighting the growing impact of TVET education in St. Lucia. TVET coordinator at the school, Ms. Bispak, says the program is becoming increasingly relevant as countries around the world continue to face growing food security concerns linked to global instability and climate pressures.
Fast-growing world that we're in, a lot of focus has to really be on these hard skills that people can actually go in and do practical things. And so, at one of the schools where we're at, we are really trying to get people to, our students in fact, to really buy into agriculture, because without agriculture we can't eat. And then agriculture now leads to the other area that we do, which is culinary arts. And we're trying to fuse both of them and utilize what we have on the farm so that we can feed the nation, because who knows, especially with what's happening in the world these days, we really have to, as we say, grow what we eat and eat what we grow.
The presentation included an assortment of vegetables and agro-processed items developed through practical classroom and field training. The initiative also highlighted the growing role of TVET education in equipping students with practical and industry-ready skills for the future.
This was given to the Prime Minister to show appreciation for his generous contributions to our agro-processing expo that we had at Blue Coral Mall. He is instrumental act was very beneficial to us to showcase our skills that we are currently developing and our potential of the industry.
Prime Minister Pierre praised the students, teachers, and the Ministry of Education for continuing to strengthen the national TVET program and encourage greater local production.
And to thank the people who have taken on the ideological shift into vocational education. We hope that it will grow from strength to strength. I want to thank the teachers again and the principal and the Ministry of Education for moving forward as we continue our vision of growing what you eat and eating what you grow.
Students also expressed appreciation to Prime Minister Pierre and the government for continuing to expand opportunities through TVET education.
Coming up next, the Prime Minister calls for a united national response to crime and stronger collaboration on security reforms.
Trans fats are unhealthy fats found in some foods. However, it can also be formed from our cooking habits. Did you know that reusing oil when frying can create trans fats? Or that using healthy oils for frying foods at high temperatures can also generate trans fats? Yes, it can. Avoid such practices to protect your health.
This message is brought to you by the Nutrition Unit of the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs.
Welcome back. Prime Minister Honorable Philip J. Pierre is calling for a united national response to crime. Nival Ogist reports.
Prime Minister Honorable Philip J. Pierre has reaffirmed the government of St. Lucia's commitment to strengthening national security and advancing justice sector reforms, while calling for a balanced and holistic approach to addressing crime and violence. Speaking at the pre-cabinet press briefing on Tuesday, May 26th, the Prime Minister acknowledged growing public concern over crime and urged mature national dialogue and collective action to support safer communities.
I'm very concerned. I continue to be concerned. And I'm sure all politicians, all well-meaning politicians are concerned. And I understand that they're concerned. But it's complex. So let's not believe we can have answers on the talk show. The answers to the crime problem will not come on any talk show. It won't come on any Facebook page or any Facebook rant. It will come by being mature, sitting down as a country and discussing. And that's what I'm willing to do. But I'm very concerned. I'll continue to be concerned.
The Prime Minister's remarks come as government continues implementation of several initiatives aimed at improving public safety, strengthening the justice system, and modernizing law enforcement and correctional operations.
Every police force needs more resources. But the fact is, we have to be realistic of what we can do and what we cannot do. We have to be realistic about it. St. Lucia has a health and security levy of 2.5%. It raised $40 million last year. $40 million. That's what it raised last year. There have been cries. Stop it. Stop the health and security levy. No one has said where we will get the revenue to deal with the issues.
The Prime Minister further outlined the government's continued investment in personnel and institutional support across the security sector.
It's a holistic approach that we take and we are going to continue. As to resources, within the government's fiscal ability, we'll continue to give resources. We'll continue. Right now, we are about to recruit 80 new officers. We just recruited some people for the fire service at Bodley. So we're going to continue doing it. But it's challenging. We have realities that no one says how they'll solve them,
Prime Minister Pierre said the government of St. Lucia remains committed to continuing reforms and investments necessary to improve public confidence and support safer communities across the country. For the Government Information Service, I am Nival Auguste.
St. Lucia is continuing a series of justice sector reforms aimed at improving court efficiency and reducing case backlogs. Desley Poyot has the details.
The government of St. Lucia continues to advance several justice sector reforms aimed at improving court efficiency, modernizing elements of the justice system, and strengthening public confidence in the administration of justice. Press Secretary to the Prime Minister explains.
Among the key initiatives currently underway are the implementation of the Swift Justice and Criminal Backlog Reduction Court, expansion of virtual court operations at the Borderley Correctional Facility, and continued upgrades to court infrastructure, including the construction of the Halls of Justice and refurbishment of the Soufrière Courthouse.
The Press Secretary provided an update on the Criminal Backlog Reduction Court.
On March 19, 2026, the government of St. Lucia officially opened the Criminal Backlog Reduction Court under the Swift Justice project to help speed up the handling of older criminal matters before the High Court. Approximately 100 matters were disposed of between February and May 2026 as part of ongoing efforts to reduce delays within the criminal justice system.
Government, she says, is continuing work towards developing St. Lucia's first national crime prevention policy, informed by national surveys, statistical analysis, and evidence-based planning, and is expected to guide programs focused on early intervention, youth engagement, and community-based violence prevention initiatives. Reporting for the Government Information Service, I am Desley Poyot.
A new chapter has begun for the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court with the swearing-in of Her Ladyship, the Honorable Madam Margaret Allison Price Findlay, as Chief Justice. More in this report.
Her Ladyship, the Honorable Madam Margaret Allison Price Findlay, has been officially appointed and sworn in as Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, marking a historic moment in the administration of justice in the region. The appointment was confirmed through letters patent issued by His Majesty King Charles III, with the office in accordance of the West Indies Associated States Supreme Court Order 1967. During the ceremony, it was emphasized that the office of Chief Justice carries immense responsibility, requiring wisdom, integrity, impartiality, and a firm commitment to the rule of the law. The Ladyship took the oath of the office before Excellency Sir Cyril Errol Charles, Governor-General of St. Lucia.
I, Margaret Allison Price Findlay, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, his heirs and successors, according to law.
Chief Justice Margaret Price Findlay also used the occasion to outline her vision for leadership within the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court.
True leadership is not about titles or authority or power. We work for a venerable institution called the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, and we must all roll up our sleeves and put in the hard work for us to succeed. No one of us is greater than the other. We all bear the responsibility for the success of this institution. Let us put our shoulders to the wheel and work collectively to achieve this goal. We ultimately serve the people of the Eastern Caribbean, not ourselves. Together, we can build a stronger, more vibrant court, which can continue to serve the Eastern Caribbean 60 years and beyond. It would be remiss of me not to thank Almighty God for having brought me this far, for sustaining me throughout my career.
Justice Findlay says the court exists to serve the people of the Eastern Caribbean, not itself, and call for unity in building a stronger and more vibrant judiciary that can continue to serve the region well into the future.
And with that, we wrap up this edition of St. Lucia Magazine. A heartfelt thank you to everyone who contributed to this production: the National Television Network, the GIS team, and the communications officers across government ministries. Thank you for watching NTN Channel 122 and following the official social media platforms of the Government of St. Lucia. I am Kendall Eugene, standing in for Nival Ogist. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged as we continue tracking St. Lucia's progress.